Here with me in the studio, I have Professor Bola Akintenwa, Director General, Bolitac Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Chike Ogia, Managing Director and CEO, Mark Foley Hospitality Limited. Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director, Enough is Enough, and Professor David Aworawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos. Well, we've had two guests on the program, Group Captain Sadiq Shehu, who talked about the Abuja-Kaduna train incident. In fact, it's more than an incident. It was a tragedy, and the efforts, made by your government. And then we also had Absat Abiola Costello talking about the presidential aspiration of the governor of Kogi State, Governor Yaya Bello. Quickly, let me start with you, Chike Ogia. Chike?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I thought you were going to point me at something definite. I didn't know you were going to leave it open-ended. Okay, fine. When we start with the state of security in Nigeria, that really, for me, is a very, very, very sorry state of affairs. There's no doubt about it that the government maybe has totally lost the plot of how to secure this country, and that is extremely worrying because in all the great developmental strides they've been making, I will raise up my hand to say they have made a few. One that touches and concerns me directly is the second Niger Bridge, and I really applaud them for that. But how do citizens get to enjoy these facilities and this infrastructure if the place is so unsafe? Now, when we look at this whole idea about safety and security, you begin to wonder that, is there something about it that, we are not being told the truth? Because I can't believe that, for the life of me, the whole arsenal of the Nigerian military, Navy, Army, police, and, other paramilitary agencies can be defeated the way these bandits are doing. Now we hear situations of what the governor of Kaduna is saying. Is it that people don't want to act on intelligence? Or is it that people in the highest of authorities are also complicit in this? Because these are the kind of questions we need to ask at this point. We are losing lives, and it's becoming like lives don't matter anymore. And that really is getting worried. It's like we just move to the next incident. The president will come, make a few, I don't even know what to call it, but whether it's to appeal or soothe the nerves of these families that are suffering. Because, when you lose people, it is not a very easy thing, I can tell you. I've lost some loved ones in my time, and I know these are even people that were old and, had gotten to a stage where you can start thinking about them going, and I know how difficult that was. Not to talk about somebody who gets into a train in Abuja just to go to Kaduna. You see, we are very lucky in this country. I don't know whether we realize something. The OB of Onitsha actually told us that a phone call, he was already at the train station to take that train to Kaduna for a meeting. It was a phone call at the train station that stopped him from going. So just imagine if the OB of Onitsha was there and anything had happened to him. How do you convince anybody that that was not a plan? Yes, that was it. And we don't have with already what is going on in the country, that is just like pouring kerosene or is it fuel on fire. We can't keep on going. We can't go this way. We can't. Something needs to happen. Now the Minister of Communications, Minister of Transportation is telling us that when they were doing this thing, he had brought out a roadmap for surveillance and, safety equipment that would accompany this train lines. And at that time, it was maybe 400 naira to $1. Now we know what he's talking about. And he said, so the way he said it, it looks like some of his colleagues are not happy with the strides he's making. So that gives me a semblance that maybe that ESCO is divided and they're working against themselves. And that again tells you why we're escalating the insecurity in the country. because maybe it looks like some of his colleagues don't want him to succeed. Then we're having these issues, and some people are announcing his candidature or his whatever for presidency. And I'm just like, what kind of country is this? I'm frustrated.
Well, Prof, you are not frustrated. The country has been very kind to you.
Academics are generally not frustrated. No, that's why we are academics. Let me begin from where Chike stopped, raising the issue of Rotimi Amechi. Probably that there is division or people, his colleagues are not going along. At the meeting of the Federal Executive Council, the point was made that Rotimi Amechi did not provide the basic analysis required for consideration and possible approval of his proposal. He didn't. For instance, the point was made that the company to which contract was to be given was registered only in 2019. That the turnover was about probably 800 million naira. But the contract sum itself is more than 1 trillion naira. This company had not had any experience either in the, in the business, and more importantly, you are giving a trillion naira contract to a company comprising 3 or 4 members, and then they do not have any track record of, having done any business in that particular area. So the Federal Executive Council, according to the report, refused to approve. Now, when you look at that, I think there is more of objectivity of purpose at the level of the Federal Executive Council than bringing in a company registered in less than 2 years to come and engage in a technological business in which they have not shown any proven experience. So in this case, I may not share the viewpoint of Chike in this particular case. You know, Sadiq Shehu, the group captain, I admire his analytical positions on 3 grounds. He did suggest, for instance, that under normal circumstances, it is not by midway that we'll be seeking safety and security, that it will have been factored into the contract ab initio. That look, he even said that in the future, whatever governmental project that is going to be put in place, let safety and security be always factored in. I do agree with him. The second point he raised is the recommendation that there should be one single agency to monitor this issue of safety and security generally. So from this perspective, grosso modo, he is now saying if you have a dedicated institution, it might give us a better, safe and secure environment. Thirdly, and perhaps more importantly, but with a query, he was giving us the procedure, the processes that can probably lead to safety and security. He told us about deterrence. He's talking about detection, delay, and responses. Please, all these are only valid to the extent that you can do all this before the occurrence, of a threat. In the train, for instance, what are you delaying when already you are confronted with an attack? What are you deterring when, for instance, you have the problem in your hands? And I can tell you that there's a problem between deterrence and determination. Deterrence is at the level of the government seeking to deter. But the criminals, they are already determined. They know they don't care about your deterrence. You go to the 1961 Diplomatic Convention. It is because diplomats are supposed not to be violated that their person, they talk about sanctity of their personality. That is why terrorists attack them. It is because there is law. It is simply because you have deterrence in place that they try to seek to frustrate, to perforate your strategy. So in this case, I will agree with him that, like Rotimi Ameki said, they want to collaborate with villages, communities. That one can be good only to the extent that they will be used as sources of intelligence gathering. With intelligence, it will be better. And finally, like Shiki raised the issue of complicity. Please, there's no way any government in Nigeria, especially the PNB administration of today, can actually convince the public that they do not know about this thing. They cannot say so. Why? The Nigerian military was once accused by General Theophilus Danjuma that the Nigerian military has been aiding and abetting the insurrectionists. Before Melefia died, he told us about his meeting with the leaders of the terrorists. The Nigerian government, they know where these people operate. In fact, if they do not know, the reports as are today are that government has succeeded in killing 100 terrorists. So they know where they are. So why is it that we are always reacting? According to Sadiq Shehu, who said no, we should not be reacting. But most unfortunately, governance, generally in Nigeria, we are not programmatic in our planning. We are always reactive. This is most unfortunate.
Okay, Professor David Awurawo, if you are out there, let me bring you into the conversation. Two guests raising two different issues: security, politics. Over to you.
Well, I want to begin with security, just like Chike and Professor Kitaniwa have done. It is very disheartening, the state of security in the country. In fact, the state of nature that Thomas Hobbes described in the Leviathan, and worst of all, continual fear and danger of violent death, and the life of man was solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short, has been replicated here, as if we now live in that, proverbial state of nature. As to what to do going forward, I agree with most of what the suggestions the group captain gave, especially the one that has to do with detection. I agree with Professor Kitaniwa that deterrence is a normal conventional, conflict where state actors, rational calculation, and all of that, will be required, that will work. But his emphasis on not waiting until something happens and we begin to react, that detection, which means that intelligence needs to be robust, to ensure that these things are prevented from happening. We have the information, action is taken, and these things are prevented from happening. That is where the focus should be. And in that regard, working with the locals is important. Usually, when you are dealing with non-state actors that are taking advantage of ungoverned spaces, the local population is a critical resource element in ability to deal with them. So if that resource is tapped maximally, it will help in preventing this kind of occurrence we had in the past week. And of course, we live in the age of science and technology. There's a whole lot of technology out there, that can give a panoramic view of what these, terrorists are doing or what they plan to do. And we get information in advance, we act on it, and that will be fine. Then coordination, collaboration, and cooperation among different security agencies, that also is critical. I'm not sure it is possible to just dedicate one security outfit, to oversee the entire, security structure that would, work with the railway. But when you have different levels, layers, working on a particular project. We also use it when NGOs, work, on the war environment and all that. What we emphasize is coordination, collaboration, and cooperation. And it's not too difficult a thing to achieve. It's just to put the structures in place that will ensure communication, that will ensure coordination, that will ensure cooperation. When that is done, they work in synergy. That also will help. So a combination of these factors is needed for progress to be made. One final thing I want to say about this insecurity issue, there is a whole lot of inaction on the part of government. I don't think it's a matter of mischief or aiding and abetting terrorists. No serious government would do that. I think it's more of a matter of inaction. I mean, it's not new that people are aware of where the terrorists are. That retired colonel who is a medical doctor, has been going to the bush to meet them, to discuss with them, ask them what their grievances are and all that. So the issue as to whether we know or whether the authorities know where they are, I'm not sure that is in contention. The problem has been inaction. And I want to believe that this attack on that train and all the issues that are arisen from there should be enough to galvanize the government to put that inaction aside and begin to take very firm action. This is time to just, extirpate them, to deal with them and end them once and for all. I'll be surprised if in another 3 weeks, 1 month.
Hello, looks like Professor Urawa. Okay, we lost connection. We lost connection with him there. Okay, Professor Urawa, are you back? If we just summarize very quickly.
Yes. On the issue of on the political arena, well, so many people are coming on board to come and announce their interest in contesting the presidency for 2023. Well, sometimes the more the merrier. This saying that may you live in interesting times. These are indeed interesting times politically in Nigeria, especially when you look at, the variegated nature of the backgrounds, the age, the experience of all those who are indicating their interest. The good thing for us is that in 10 weeks, all of this will be sorted out. The contenders and the pretenders will be, determined in the next 10 weeks, because by early June, sometimes 4th of June or thereabouts, the list must get to INEC. But it's good. Let as many as think they can win, come on board. But the other thing we have to say also is that we hope that the political parties will put in place a fair structure, so that the people can contend, and whoever wins, will be presented by the political parties, so that by June they start their, they present their list to INEC. But as for Yaya Bello and all the rest, one can only wish them well. But of course, we know that by May, especially, the contenders and the pretenders will be separated. Let me not say the men from the boys, because so as not to be misunderstood to say that those who are young cannot, indicate their interest to seek the nomination of their political parties and selection to be presented, for the presidency. Okay. Those are my thoughts on.
Thank you, Professor Urawa. Well, Yemi Adamolekun, your thoughts?
Indeed, we do live in quite interesting times. On security, I think we've said a lot, but the pattern is the same. From when the Chibok girls were abducted in 2014, there was this issue of the government having a missing persons register. We're now 8 years from there, and we still don't have a missing persons register. We have a train that doesn't have a manifest, because some people paid, some people didn't pay, so we're not quite sure who was on the train. But yet and I love what the group captain said, we should make haste slowly, but we're now eager to get back on the train. I think the issues for me are not necessarily the reasons why I'm analyzing what happened, but in the clarity that nothing is being done to stop it from happening. As someone said, how do we launch a train system that doesn't have a security mechanism, especially on a route like Abuja to Kaduna? If the route was Lagos to Ibadan, Lagos to Abeokuta, which I guess they don't have security features, we might say that because there's not a a historical issue, then you can get away with that. But we launched Abuja to Kaduna knowing what was going on in Kaduna at the time. And now we want to quickly go back. We're coming into an election year. For me, these are things that should form questions that we're asking anybody who wants to run at the legislative level, at the governorship level, and at the presidency. What specific things will you do? How will you handle this? I disagree with Professor Awara when he said that it's not aiding and abetting, it's just inaction. By not acting, you're aiding and abetting. Aiding and abetting doesn't necessarily mean that you're planning with them. But by not doing anything and allowing people's lives to be taken just for no reason, you're certainly aiding and abetting. And we've gone over and over that. Again, the group captain made the point that we shouldn't focus as much on responding police, military, because our police and our military are stretched in as much as there are issues of competence and whatnot, but the ones that we have are stretched. So we should not get to the point where we're needing them to respond. And I think that's the point he was trying to make clearly. And so you deter by ensuring that you have a manifest, that you ensure that people buy proper tickets, that you can verify who gets on a train and for what reason. I mean, there are rumors, for example, that the people on the train were targeted. The former MD of Agricultural Bank who was kidnapped. Now, possibly someone knew maybe that the Obi of Onitsha was going to be on that train. Could that have been a target? Luckily, we wouldn't have to find out. So we need to ask ourselves these honest questions and ask the people who are responsible for keeping us safe as they make promises. I mean, I think Minister of Information, maybe 3 weeks ago, still said they were winning the battle on terror. Governor El-Rufai said that as classified as bandits, there was a limit to what he could do because human rights watchers would speak. But now that they're classified as terrorists, we could be a bit more high-handed with them. Because when you have a state that rail, plane, and road becomes a problem to get to, these are critical issues that I think even on the national stage is not getting the kind of alarming attention that it should. Kaduna is a skip away from our political capital. But serious questions to ask ourselves, not just the people in authority. But I think lastly on that point about security, we also shouldn't underestimate just how psychologically impacted Nigerians have been. Again, Chibok Girls is always a marker for me, not because I'm part of the Bring Back Our Girls movement, but because the abduction was a trigger that Nigerians and the world responded to. A lot of security breaches have happened since then that we basically just kind of shrug and keep going. So it shows how year after year after year, our threshold for dealing with these things continues to rise. And we're not as quick to act as we should be when lives are at stake. And on politics and people declaring for presidency, really very interesting. The timing, as Mr. Ogia said, was unfortunate, I would say. And I think it's the level of play that we're at that anybody, and I think that's been said clearly, can offer themselves service to their country. I think it's a very interesting match between Hafsat Abiola Costello and Yahaya Bello. I found it very interesting that she was trying to compare her father to Yahaya Bello. I thought that was... I really liked your question, Dr. Abati, and I thought her responses were quite interesting. The winner in the matchup, in my opinion, was Yahaya Bello, having someone of Hafsat's pedigree, both in terms of education, work experience, and parental lineage, be the champion of your campaign. I think he's a win on that. Yahaya Bello, the things that Hafsat said, I would beg to disagree quite a bit on what he said, as in him being a voice for young people and women, certainly not a voice for me. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to another interesting topic. The Enugu State Division of the Court of Appeal this week upheld the ruling of a high court sitting in Abakaliki, the Ebonyi State capital, that struck out a suit challenging the defection of Governor David Umahi of Ebonyi State from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress in the state. Arise correspondent Abel Ejikeme sent in this report.
Senator Sani Obuoji, candidate of the All Progressives Congress in Ebonyi State in the 2019 governorship election, and his deputy had appealed a high court ruling. They had asked the appellate court to declare the seats of Governor Umahi and his deputy Kelechi Igwe vacant on account of their defection from the PDP to the APC. But in the unanimous ruling, the appellate court dismissed the appeal for being inconsistent with the Constitution and extant laws of Nigeria. Justice Joseph Oyewole, while reading the judgment, notes that the power to declare the holders of the offices of the governor and the deputy governor vacant is not conferred on the judiciary by sections 180, 188, and 189 or any section of the Constitution. The judge held that the removal of elected members of the executive arm of government is substantially that of the legislature. He also notes that the role of the judiciary is limited to setting up an investigative panel where impeachment is contemplated. The appeal court further held that the removal of heads of the federal arm of government has not been ascribed to the judiciary.
I know what the Court of Appeal has done this morning is to restate what the Supreme Court had earlier held in the case of Attorney General of the Federation versus Abubakar. I mean, that is the law. The Constitution of Nigeria has not provided that if a governor defects from the party that sponsored him into office to another party, he thereby loses his office. It is mere rascality that would make anyone think that it represents the position. You cannot go outside the Constitution of Nigeria to begin to read into it what does not exist there.
Defection to another political party has no legal consequence under the Constitution or under any extant law, even under any judicial precedent, as contained in the case of AG Federation and Atiku Abubakar. For us, the governor of Ebonyi State has again been vindicated. And the Constitution is clear. What is not contained in the Constitution is not contemplated.
To us, we'll get a copy of it and study it carefully and meet with our client and know the next step to take. To me, it is the findings of the court that there are contradictions, but to me and to the appellants, there's no contradiction. So we'll look and study the judgment carefully and know the next action to take.
Recall that Justice Inyang Ekwu of the Federal High Court in Abuja had sacked Governor Mahi, his deputy, and 16 Ebonyi State lawmakers over their defection from the PDP to the APC. While Justice Ekwu's ruling has been appealed, what effect will this judgment have on the matter before the Abuja division of the appeal court?
I cannot fail to tell you that the judgment of this court today will have effect on that judgment and on the appeal, because that judgment, the Court of Appeal is one, and it has to respect the judgment delivered today.
While Justice Oyewole had questioned the morality of politicians who defect from one party to another, the overall judgment has widely been described as a victory for the people of Ebonyi State. It remains to be seen if the Abuja division of the appellate court will toe the line of the Enugu State division of the appeal court. Abel Ejikeme, Arise News.
Okay, so the court simply ruled that, Section 68(1) and Section 109 are talking about, a mode of, about governors and legislators who defect. That will not apply in this case. The main position taken by the court was a ruling in AG Federation versus Atiku Abubakar 2007, which upheld Section 40 of the Constitution with regard to freedom of association. The court also said that the jurisprudence has gone beyond Amechi versus INEC and has also gone beyond Abegunde versus Ondo State, and that the only manner in which a governor can be removed is with regard to sections 180 and 188 under the 1999 Constitution. So these are the issues here, and it looks like the confidence by governor of Ebonyi State that he and his deputy will not be removed, has been well placed. But that's the position of the law at the moment. Chike, I'll start with you again.
Yeah, very true. Very extremely true. And my good friend, Dave Umahi, still, I'm sure he knows he's still not Uhuru yet, because under the doctrine of stare decisis, we still have one more level to go upstairs, which is the Supreme Court, which would make the final determination for this. But the truth is that this is all about the ground norm of Nigeria, which is the Constitution. And I think this judgment reiterates the fact that, like you said, those sections, I think 180, and which gives the
180,
state...
188, and 189.
That's right, which gives the state's houses of assembly and the National Assembly the right, to remove those, the president and the governors, those category of public officials. It obviously, like the judgment, and you had also reiterated, tells us that the Amechi case now, has been overtaken by time. That was why when his initial outburst, when the judgment came from the from the High Court, I wondered why he was so emotional and he almost undid everything he should have done. This is the right thing he's done. Take the matter to the court and let it go through judicial process, which is what he's going through. I guess he was just being emotional at that time. And like I said, this is the right thing to do. And we'll see whether there will be any further appeal after this, and then we can lead this situation to rest.
Okay, Yemi, your take on this? The defection from one political party to the other. In fact, the court even said that the rule in Abegunde versus Ondo State, that with regard to the members of the House, they should not be asked to vacate their seats, that, it's a by-election that should be ordered. And the judge was saying, well, what has been done in the lower court amounts to judicial rascality. But your take?
Well, I think the more fundamental issue is a sense of sort of representation and people feeling cheated, that you came on the platform of this party and then midway through you decide you want to align yourself with the other party. And as we've said repeatedly, political parties in Nigeria are not based on really any ideology for the most part, especially the two dominant parties, even though members of the party try to make the case that they are different. But I believe that the simple fact that we see them cross carpet quite easily and so frequently really attests to the fact that there is really nothing different that the parties stand for. So given that, it then is easy for people to cross carpet. But I think to the point that has been made, the Constitution does allow a governor to cross carpet with ease, with no penalty. And if we think about it that way, then maybe the framing will be slightly different. So the issue is that there is no penalty for cross carpeting. But the truth of the matter is that it actually does align with the way we treat political parties in Nigeria, because they're really not that different. So it shouldn't really matter. So at the end of the day, as we go to elections, people who want to die, quote unquote, on the altar of one party or the other need to look at these things as examples of why they shouldn't. And we should focus really on what people have to offer. People are using political parties as platforms to get elected. And as long as we're clear that that's why we are here, then we should pay more attention to the candidates that are on the platforms rather than necessarily the platforms. Because your APC member today can very well be a PDP member by tomorrow.
Well, Professor Awurawa, your take on this? Professor Awurawa.
Yeah, we predicted it. We looked at the Constitution very closely. The other week, we analyzed it. We predicted that the outcome would likely be this, especially for governor. For legislators, as members of House of Assembly and senators and members of House of Reps, is a little different because the way the Constitution is framed, 188, 189, and some other sections, that 308 on the matter is a little different as presented for the governor, the executives, than as presented for the lawmakers. So for lawmakers, when they defect, like the one in Kogi, in Kwara, that is stirring up some dust now. We'll see how that goes. But we predicted it, and exactly as we said, it will likely turn out to be. That is how it has been. I agree with Yemi that given that state of things and the fact that political parties in Nigeria do not have ideological foundations, people can crisscross at any time. We should focus more then on individuals. Unfortunately, that shouldn't be that shouldn't be the ideal. That we will now begin to focus on the individual. That's where the idea of the strong man now comes to play, which is not supposed to be. But given the way the political parties function in Nigeria and constitutional provisions regarding cross-carpeting, unfortunately, we are compelled to, focus more on an individual. What has he done? Who is he? Is he empathetic? And things like that. Those things should influence our choice of, the individuals we put into offices, especially as 2023, is around the corner.
Okay, thank you, Professor Aurawa. Quickly, Professor Akintenwa, so that we can take our final topic for the day.
I think in looking forward, we need to determine who is a voter voting for. Is the voter voting for the political party or for the individual? If we are able to address this question, then the way forward will be very easy to define and articulate. On the basis of the electoral requirement that you can only be voted for if you are presented by a political party, that simply means that it is the political party you are actually voting for. So if you are voted on the platform of PDP and then you suddenly leave PDP to go to APC, I think it's political recklessness. It's political recklessness.
Except that
Independent candidacy is now on the table. So if it passes through at the State House of Assembly, then that will then shift the dynamic of who people are voting for.
Yes, I will agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's quickly wrap it up. The Nigerian Football Federation has terminated the appointment of the entire technical crew of the national team. The report shows that Austin Eguavoen has stepped down as the technical advisor of the Nigerian national team. According to the statement published on the website titled NFF Disengages Super Eagles Technical Crew and signed by the NFF General Secretary, Dr. Muhammad Sanusi, the termination takes immediate effect. The statement read, following the failure of the Super Eagles of Nigeria to qualify for the 2022 FIFA World Cup, the SY technical advisor, Augustine Eguavoen, has stepped down from that position with immediate effect. And so that's what the NFF has done. Two things: the Eagles failing to qualify for Qatar 2022 in November and December, and then the violence at the MKO Abiola Stadium with the fans expressing their outrage. You follow football very well, Chike, so I'll come to you again.
That exactly is the reason why tokenism of getting the people on the bench away is not the problem. If we go back to the beginning, how do you get rid of a coach who had, practically guaranteed you qualification in all these things? You get him in, and then you bring all these people in, and then you're also bringing all these new players in such a short time who have never played for Nigeria, who don't understand the mentality and the psychology of being a Nigerian player, no matter how good they are. Because we must understand that once you come to a team situation, it becomes a whole. It's not a matter of the individual talent and where you're playing. So if you ask me quickly, I think what we need to do is to organize our local league. And until we do that, so it's not about getting technical people away. There should be a total overhaul from the position of the NFF, actually, because the whole thing cascades downwards. We obviously are still on the wrong trajectory. And once we are going through the wrong trajectory, there's no way we can get to where we're trying to go.
Well, Professor Aurawa, if you could just, make your comment as brief as possible, because we have just a few minutes to wrap up.
Yeah, the failure of Nigeria to qualify is very painful. As you know, I'm a football enthusiast. I follow the Eagles all over the place. I've gone to several countries with them. The last one being in South Africa in 2020. Sometime not too long ago. It is painful. I think what the boys actually lacked was cohesion and individual determination. They were playing as if there was not much at stake. I don't know what their psychologists what they do and all that. I agree with Chike that the technical crew did what else does one expect them to do. It boiled down to what the players were able to do on the pitch. And of course, I was also surprised that new players were brought at the last minute. I think we should do some overhaul, plan well ahead for the next competitions we have, Nations Cup coming and then World Cup in 4 years' time. This might even give us an opportunity to actually build a new team that will be like 1994 team, not those fire brigade things we do just a few couple of months to competitions and then we'll go and wumble and fumble as one guy said the other time. So we should start now and then build something strong, something firm, something that will be up to date from now. Planning for 2 years' time, planning for the next 4 years.
If you can hear me, I would like Yemi to say something.
On football, I actually don't really follow football. I think, true. So I'm not going to comment on the technical team, but I will comment on the destruction that happened afterwards. And I think as we talked about security at the beginning, talked about elections in the middle, I think we need to be very, very mindful of the state of the nation. And I'll tie that to the Lekki toll gate, where Lagos State has decided that while not responding to the recommendations from the NSAS panel, it wants to start collecting toll and have its armed policemen when there's insecurity all over Lagos, but it's at the toll gates that we need policemen with arms. We need to be sensitive to the times, socioeconomic conditions, that people went on the field, not because we lost. That's not, people just taking out their frustration. We need to be mindful of that.
Okay, Prof. The last word on this, because we need to go now.
I think that there is no need to have hoodlums as football supporters. Efforts to be made to prevent those who are going to be supporting Nigerian Eagles from being hoodlums, criminals, all that. There's no basis to go, to the field and give Nigeria a bad name internationally.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Akintenwa, Professor Awurawa. Thank you, Chikogia and Yemi Adamolekun. You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From my entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching.